balalaikas play in the desert of Tucson, Arizona. 57 American tourists are warming up for their trip to Russia. For 3 weeks and $2,000, they will visit Leningrad, Moscow, and ride the Trans-Siberian Railway. You must be crazy to trade Tucson for Siberia even for a day, say some friends and relatives. But for them, it's a great adventure. And for me, it's a return to the past. 20 years ago, as a Polish television reporter, I often filmed in Russia. As a child in Poland, I had to study Russian. I loved the language and did well. This is Del Phillips, our tour leader. A professor of Russian at the University of Arizona in Tucson.
Now we're going to divide this country up a little bit.
He's been taking Americans to the Soviet Union for 10 years.
Where's our cutter? Immediately.
Some activities perfectly legal in this country may put you in trouble there, warns the tourist manual. For example, it is forbidden to bring any letters and notes addressed to Soviet citizens. One Bible per person, please.
Right there.
For the art books with nudes, use your judgment. If it would shock your great-grandmother, don't take it to Russia.
Belarus, well, it's up here somewhere, isn't it? Minsk. All right, Minsk. Here's a small piece of Siberia. Oh, this is my piece here. Right?
Our film crew arrives in Russia a day ahead of the tourists. We are in Leningrad, the second largest city after Moscow. According to our arrangement with the Soviet television, we are permitted to film the Americans, and only the Americans. All filming must be supervised by the Soviet television representative. His name, we are told, is Valentin. The Arizonans are here. We wanted to film their arrival at the airport, but were stopped by Valentin. No pictures at the border. And anyway, Del and another tourist have had some problems.
What happened to Del is that the professor from Oklahoma has some literature and some new clothes, and he is held, he is detained, and Del had to remain with him.
I asked Lena, our chaperone from Intourist, the state agency in charge of tourism, about Del, and she is confident that Del will soon be here. I know that Soviet customs does not arrest tourists. At worst, they detain your extra pair of jeans or your anti-Soviet Time magazine.
Let's speak English.
Oh yes, let's speak English. Definitely, we can speak English.
How did you learn your English? Tell me.
At the University of Leningrad, and from you also, every day.
Did you live ever abroad?
No, I went there on business, escorting Russian tourists and interpreting from Russia, all countries, European, almost all of them. English-speaking countries and Italy and France, so we have quite a practice really, interpreting outside for our Russian tourists.
This is Valentin, you know her, right?
Yes, oh yes, definitely, yes.
In the upper left-hand corner of the frame, Valentin begins his watch.
You know, you will not be disappointed because this is most typical weather we have in Leningrad. And again, I repeat, you will not be blaming us that we were misinforming you, yes? This winter palace was the last bastion of the provisional government.
Lena takes us first to the site of the revolution. It began 68 years ago when Lenin's revolutionaries stormed the Tsar's winter palace.
The events were directed by Lenin and his party members.
May I ask if you are a member?
Yes, I am, yes.
She explains that to become a party member in the Soviet Union is a great privilege, and that she became a member as a result of her outstanding work as a tour guide.
Always late.
Do you have an unemployment rate, or is everyone considered
Unemployment we
employed?
don't have. This is something we can be proud of, really. We have a different problem, the shortage of manpower. And now look around. We have very good system of public transport. It's really so, trams, buses, trolley buses, metro. So you don't need your car for everyday life.
Our tourists seem to be looking for more.
If I had to say one thing, I would say that what I find different from life here, as it is in the United States, is there's no spark. There is absolutely no joie de vivre. There's no zest. Everybody seems to go about their job in a perfunctory, dour, day-to-day life. There's no inclination to excel that I can see.
Kazan Cathedral now is a very interesting museum, and I bet you've never heard of such museum beforehand. Museum of Atheism and the History of Religions.
Did you say that there were never any services, regular mass services?
No. The
held
last
here?
regular service here took place in 1924. So since 1924, this is a museum. It is not a church anymore, and I'll tell you why. Because again, look, from artistic viewpoint, it goes without saying, look, how valuable and beautiful is this cathedral, yes? And the church refused to finance the restoration, keep it up. Exactly, and that's why it was nationalized and turned into a museum.
If you're brought up with any kind of culture or education, you've been to many a museum, you've been to palaces, you've been to other countries. You don't have to really come to Russia for this. You come to Russia to see all the things you've heard about back home.
In the background now, is he seeing me now?
We decide to escape from the tour, which of course means an escape from Valentin.
I want a big closet of him, a big closet.
Along with 3 others from the group, we go looking for Russians.
Давайте. Мы можем говорить по-русски. Мы искаем счастливых русских людей. Вы счастливы? Да? Well, I'm saying that we are looking for the happy Russian.
А что вам сказать-то?
What's your name in English?
My name is Dima. My name is Misha.
How old are you?
What?
Сколько вам лет? In English.
18.
And you?
17.
17. Вам не кажется,
Don't you think there is a lack of freedom in your country? I asked them.
Что, полнейшая свобода?
What are you talking about? We have plenty of freedom.
Через 10 лет, как вы видите себя?
How do you see yourself in 10 years? As a member of the Communist Party?
Коммунистической партии?
Да.
Yes, says one. We'll see,
Посмотрим там.
says the other.
They will be the member of the Communist Party, probably. Right?
Ask them if most teenagers desire to belong to the Communist Party.
Но если, так сказать, возьмите 10 человек в возрасте 18 лет, сколько...
If you take 10 people your age, how many of them want to become party members? 7? 8, I ask. All 10, they answer.
They say that so-called dissident means absolutely nothing, that it's such a insignificant part of the society.
The dissidents?
The dissidents.
Oh.
How do Americans live? They ask us.
Many different ways. They do many different things.
Они могут делать разные вещи, кто хочет что.
We have very poor, very rich, and anything in
У нас
between.
есть люди, которые не богатые, и которые очень богатые.
Do you think the Soviet Union will be able to work things out with you? You must first agree, I answer, that freedom is man's greatest dream. I start to talk about the different concepts of freedom when a young man in black approaches. I would like to warn you that a certain operational group is watching you. We are filming for American television, I say a bit defensively. I understand, but you may be stopped at any moment. I don't think so, I counter. Do you have permission, he asks. Sure, I bluff.
Ну сколько вам лет?
Мне?
19?
And I ask him to join us in the filming.
Они комсомольцы, они сказали, что они любят свою родину.
I tell him that we've been discussing world peace with the other young men who are patriots, members of the Communist League, and are willing to be filmed. But he says he must decline our invitation for very special personal reasons.
Спасибо. Спасибо вам большое. Я очень... Это было...
Тоже можем идти.
Что? Да. Это было очень интересно. Спасибо. Очень интересно для нас поговорить с такими... Очень... Спасибо вам большое. Спасибо. Всего.
До свидания.
Let's see if they're going to call the police now.
But it was interesting.
I
That was
wonder if
good.
the third individual knew the other two.
No.
Did it seem like it?
No, the guy really thought that he's helping.
He was lending a hand.
Пожалуйста, я вас очень прошу, я при них еще особенно не хотел.
I'm coming back, he says, to tell you that I have nothing against you, and I didn't interrupt you willingly. My personal life has two sides, and I couldn't explain it in their presence. Come on, let's walk and talk. Then he tells me he's a Jew and with his family is waiting for the exit visas to Israel. Then obviously he's not one of the 10 out of 10 young people supporting the Soviet system, I conclude. Is this figure accurate, I ask him. Pretty much, maybe 8 or 9, not 10. But so what, he answers. Then he drops a bomb. The certain operational group watching me is actually him. In order to keep his student status and avoid the 3-year draft, he has joined the voluntary police patrol, which follows foreigners.
In such a lovely company, this can be only one toast. Peace to you, sunshine to you, smiles to you, and we should live in peace. So good luck to you. Thank you so much for coming here. Cheers.
Cheers. He cannot stand. In front of our hotel, completely isolated from city life, to meet a Russian requires luck.
You speak Russian? I mean English. Can we talk?
Yeah, of course. I don't mind. At least. I don't know what to talk about.
Well, we talk about the Soviet society. How happy are the Russians? We don't know. We're looking for smiling Soviet people, and here we have one. No, it's not the first one.
No, but if I...
But why do you smile? Because we Americans tend to think that the life is so bad that you should... When we take the picture of you, you're always like that, and we say, smile, smile, cheese.
No. Well, I'm sure I think it's misunderstanding.
It's misunderstood.
I was smiling just because I saw your face, I saw that you are not the ordinary.
Smiling on, right, that's natural, you're right.
Because my own opinion, we are the same people as you, you know.
No, we do. We are the same people. But why, when I want to go to the Russian home and apartment, everybody tells me it's impossible? Because
you are welcome.
You are to your home?
Yeah.
Well, let's go now.
Okay.
Let's go.
What we learn on the way is that his name is Sasha, that he is 25, single, and he's a floral designer who arranges flowers for state institutions and sometimes for movie sets at the Leningrad Film Studio.
That's another case of the little capital.
He comes from an educated family well-rooted in Leningrad's intelligentsia. To be a member of that circle, one risks being automatically perceived as unfriendly to the government.
Double economy.
He spent 7 years teaching himself English at home. Collecting American friends seems to be his hobby. A collage of Western postcards decorates a wall of his one-room apartment.
No? Stop.
So you said, who told you that our system is very productive, right? And
yeah. No, I mean, who told you that socialist system in in the first years are the most productive?
What do you mean, first 70 years, you mean?
Well, 70 years it's still...
The revolution was in 17, and we are, what year we are? 85. So, okay, 65 years. Who told you that the socialist system is productive in the first 65 years? Well, nobody.
Capitalism.
Yeah, nobody told us.
Yeah,
no.
So, and nobody, and I don't suppose that...
Everybody told us this is terribly unproductive. That's what we hear every day.
Well, it works.
What's your reason to work?
What?
What's your reason to work?
What's your reason?
Well, in Russia, if you don't work for more than 3 months, you'll be in jail. You are a member of collective, a member of society. And if you don't work, so I work to feed up you. You are welcome, but I'm a little bit strict with it. I mean, I don't know how you will use it.
Oh, you're afraid that we'll manipulate you and edit in such a way, and you're afraid that I will be doing it in a simplistic, primitive way.
Yeah, advocating capitalist system, yeah.
That I am just here to advocate capitalist and not to learn about
No,
you.
I mean that if you're the most important question.
I do prefer capitalist system. If not, I will be living in Warsaw today. Obviously, I mean, I'm sorry, Sasha.
No, what
but
I mean. I'm shaking hands with the captain and I don't mind it, you know.
He doesn't seem worried about who's watching him.
There's no such thing like Big Brother watching?
It is warning. Warning. Предупреждение.
You worry about him watching you.
I'm not care. Because they don't bother me, you know. They don't come and say, Sasha, how do you live? And Sasha, what do you do? And Sasha, are you agree with the socialist system or not? You know, we suppose that the Committee of the State Security exists. And I want this system to be improved because there is no...
Are you a party member?
No.
You will never be?
No.
Why you would never be the member of the party?
No, I mean that... Well, I'm not so strong communist and so on.
Are you Komsomolets?
Well, I was a communist.
You were a member of the Communist League, but you will not be a member of the party. Why?
I don't think that I am the best communist. I mean, in my mind.
Are you religious?
Yeah, the first thing, I believe in God, and I don't mind Western. No, for example, you are talking to me, you are making a film. I don't mind it. The thing is that for flower design,
right?
The town, for example, I work a lot for the town. Town needs money, and sometimes they say we have no money.
Right.
And I have a question for the United States: why we have no money? Because we spend a lot of money for military. No, how does it call it?
Arms.
For arms race, and I don't suppose that it's really needable. And you spend too much money for arms race.
So you have an official request to us.
Yes.
Don't spend money on arms,
yes.
so we don't have to spend money, so I'll have more money for flowers.
You steal money from me with all your arms race.
Right. So...
From me, me, Sasha, you know, from my government, I'm not care. If you steal money from
Sasha, the floral designer.
I'm not care, but you steal money from me. Because I would have a higher salary, a high living standard, the better apartment, and so on. And that time I would come, and you would come, and I would say, oh, have a look, how wonderful life I have. And I have no possibility, because you may spend your, I don't know, $300 billion for the arms, the use. And if Russia spent 300 billion, it's too much for Russia, you know.
Can afford.
It's too much. That time we have...
But do you have to really? Is it something that really we are reasonably can do to you? I mean, are we so crazy?
Sasha owns the latest Western stereo system and hundreds of American records, presents from his friends.
We like it very much.
But with tea from a samovar, Russian music goes best.
You're a guest, not me.
I'm very attached to my country, he says. I like your wonderful Western toys, but my place is here forever. I will never leave Russia.
Make another one, Sasha.
Later, he tells us a legend about the samovar. After a dozen cups of hot tea, you can see yourself face flushed, and reflected in the side of the samovar, you see your true self. Next morning, Valentin gets up to discover that we are not in the hotel. We are in church with Sasha. Sasha got Father Boris's permission for us to film here. My name is Anna Alexandrovna, says the woman during confession. I haven't been feeling well lately. Read the Holy Bible. That will heal you, says the priest. In 2 or 3 days, you will feel better. This Christian Orthodox church is one of a dozen functioning churches in Leningrad. Before the revolution, hundreds of them were open. For the most part, religion has been eliminated from the life of the Soviet people. The modern state can only bring you happiness, goes the communist ideology, through scientific solutions. The secular society free from superstitions will help your spirit grow. Religion is the poor man's drug handed out by the wealthy church, continues the argument. Why is Father Boris so eager to let us film, I ask Sasha, one of few young parishioners here. He's a state employee, Sasha answers, and he knows that the state expects him to show foreigners that there is freedom of religion here. Did you see Father Boris's white limousine? He's a very wealthy and powerful man, Sasha adds. I have a story for you about religion, Sasha says as we observe the crowd. In 1917, Lenin spoke to a young revolutionary woman. Look at that old woman going to church, Lenin said. She must be 60 or 70. Soon she will die, and her religion will die with her. Obviously, he was wrong, comments Sasha. The young woman with Lenin 68 years ago is the old woman in church today. Don't believe the Soviet propaganda that only old people are religious, an old woman whispers to me. And she gives me directions to small churches where young people free from fear of exposure regularly attend. God's word is very alive in this country and is spreading. Thank you for coming, she says, as her eyes fill with tears. Before going to the park with Sasha and a couple from the tour, I call Valentin and tell him we are filming the Russians enjoying their Sunday. Fine, he says, but I won't take responsibility for you. At any time you can be arrested for filming without permission. But listen, Valentin, this is wonderful. People are happy walking through the park, I argue, before he hangs up. On Sundays we are free, says Sasha. We forget the bureaucrats and use the summer place of Peter the Great as our own. This is the old gate to the palace. The main door of the gate is always locked, allowing only a narrow opening for people to pass through. As a result, the gate will probably be broken soon. But since the gate is owned by the state, and the state knows best, people do not question the decision of having the gates half closed. They wait patiently to squeeze through the narrow opening. It's Sunday. The state is good to you. Leningrad by night with Sasha as guide. You must experience Leningrad's white nights, when darkness lasts only 3 hours, he insists. What's your favorite American music, I ask Sasha. The group Talking Heads, he answers. Too bad the words are too hard to understand. It is 3 a.m. and Leningrad's nightlife is non-existent despite Sasha's promises. Even here, in the city's main post, telephone and telegraph office. During the day, people wait in lines to make long-distance calls. Sasha likes to come here in the middle of the night to talk to strangers and insomniacs. But no one is around. Only now I realize we are filming a place which is off limits in every tourist manual, telecommunications facilities. For the Soviets, they are as important as railroads, industrial plants and border installations. I'm anxious to leave. I begin to wonder whether to ask Sasha the nagging question. Why is he so fearless? Does he feel protected? Do they know about us? I don't ask. I like him. And I don't want to know what price he pays to buy his small freedom to make friends with foreigners. On our last walk, he shows me the eternal flame of the revolution.
Don't steal any towels. Take nothing with you. You have to pay.
The Leningrad part of the tour is over. The night train, the Red Arrow, will take us to Moscow.
Did you adjust the microphone in the wall? You didn't touch it. You didn't touch it. Very good. Very good.
Unfortunately, I have to report you to my boss in Moscow, announces Valentin in the train. I cannot account for at least 10 hours of your filming in Leningrad, and my job may be on the line. No shooting on the train, he adds, before he goes to sleep next door. The radio is on non-stop. No way to turn it off. Distinguished comrade travelers, announces the conductor. Our train approaches the capital of our motherland, the heroic city of Moscow. A red square. Going in circles among countless look-alike buses, Valentin and I try to find Tanya, the photogenic guide chosen by In-Tourist for the film. Her bus is gone, so we join our group's other guide for the tour of Moscow.
And now we place hopes in the talks which are taking place in Geneva now, the talks on the reduction of arms race, of nuclear arms race, and the prevention of spreading the nuclear arms into the space. Well, we are passing by the stadium where the main events of the Olympic Games in Moscow took place. In spite of the boycott of the Moscow Olympic Games on part of some Western countries, the Games proved a success.
Del, are you paying attention? The guide asks. Sorry, says Del, but they're making me laugh.
The city was founded in 1147.
Finally, we reach Tanya, the super guide.
Yuri Dolgoruki, right. How much does it cost to get higher education?
Nothing.
And how much does it cost to remove the tooth? To extract the tooth? Zero, free. To attend the eye specialist? To operation? In the hospital, free.
I don't think you would come across anybody here who doubts that this is, from the point of view of the Soviet people, is the most advanced economic system existing today.
4 prominent Soviet journalists, 2 of them network commentators, leave their offices every day and come here to straighten out the American tourists' misconceptions about the Soviet Union. Their flawless English has been acquired in the US, along with an expertise in public relations.
So as you see, the session of brainwashing has started. We are ready to go on.
Yes, please.
I would like to ask, what are some of your major social problems and some of your major economic problems that you are trying to solve?
I would say that probably the major problem today
is the problem of productivity of labor. Well, of course, you know that better than myself that within the framework of, say, a capitalist economy, this problem is solved relatively simply. That is, lack of jobs and surplus of manpower. And here is the main motivation for high productivity of labor. We have lack of manpower. Therefore, to produce higher productivity of labor, we have to use other motives. Among these motives are, well, I will say two major motives, moral and material.
Very often we are forced to start producing totally new branches of industries for our country, simply because, I'm sorry to say, in this political climate today, our Western partners are not very reliable. I mean, you never know whether tomorrow they're going to declare a ballpoint to be a strategic thing or not. So, as a result, well, say, personal computers. For a very long time, when we were ready to buy them and we wanted to buy them, they were licensed. I know people from IBM who were really mad here. They wanted to do the sales. They couldn't get the licenses. We were ready to buy. So finally, the declaration came that we're going to produce our own. Yes, it will take longer. Yes, perhaps the first hardware that is going to come out is not going to be as good as Apple II or you name it, but we're going to have one of our own.
Finding someone in the city of Moscow is a challenge. Few people have telephones. A telephone directory is a rare book, available only to selected institutions. I am looking for Misha and Yulia, who lived here before the building was condemned. The only thing I know is that they have moved somewhere nearby. I have never met Misha and Yulia, but we know a great deal about each other from our mutual friends, Nora and Victor, Soviet Jews now living abroad. Misha and Yulia are our only friends, said Nora, who won't be afraid to meet foreigners and be filmed. Misha is a medical student. Yulia graduated from the Institute of Foreign Languages as an English teacher. They are proud of their apartment, which is one room, a kitchen and a bath. Until recently, they lived in an apartment where the bath was shared by 5 families. The new place, as well as the old one, is provided by the state at a minimal cost. We got a good deal, says Misha, because my father is a World War II hero.
Ой, меня не надо снимать, я еще не привела себя в порядок.
Ну, очень в порядке.
Совсем абсолютно.
Ну, давайте мы посмотрим в этом, как хорошо, очень приятно.
We discussed the Soviet economy. Our problem is not shortage of manpower, but one of fictional employment, says Misha. What do you do when you have 10 workers and you only need 4 to make the product? Gorbachev now says that 6 can be fired, except that nobody knows what to do with those 6. Unemployment, we say, only belongs to capitalism.
Вот он все говорит правильно, в основном критика.
Yulia likes the way Gorbachev criticizes the dilapidated economy and the fact that he is a young leader. What has been killing us until now has been the immortality of the bureaucrats, says Misha. But an even greater problem is the submissiveness of the people to the state. There's a joke, says Yulia. The country is in trouble, says the government. You must work on weekends. Yes, say the workers, we will. It's getting worse, says the government. You must now work without pay. Yes, we will work without pay. The government comes back, this time with grim news. For the good of the country, you and you must be hanged. Any questions? The workers whisper among themselves, and one young man steps forward. Yes, we have a question, he says. Should we bring our own rope? Sunday on the banks of the Moscow River, where tourists mingle safely with Muscovites.
It's sensing that, first of all, they're not afraid to smile. even though I don't know the language.
So you first smile?
Yes, they
then you
smile.
get another smile?
Then you get another smile. And then you show them pictures of Arizona, or you show them some of the things that you have from
And then
your
you show the
state.
Bible.
And then you just take the Bible out of your pocket and just,
And
turn
they
it
smile
upside
again.
down, and they smile and go off.
And nobody knows?
Nobody knows. So far, I haven't been followed. My feeling is that each person is a creation of God and therefore has power over his own life, beyond governments, beyond philosophies, beyond anybody.
One of the people in my group was walking very late at night on a Moscow street with his friends. I was walking down the same street with my friends, and we met. Can you imagine the strange coincidence? 1 o'clock in the morning in Moscow. Now, I noticed right away that our Russian friends stood back and separated themselves, looking very suspiciously at one another. I've always noticed that over the years, that when Russians meet, Russians who do not know each other meet, they seem to be very suspicious, and they won't say anything to one another.
They have different ideas about us, and we have different ideas, and I still don't know why we can't get things, why things can't be simpler.
Because they destroyed what we cherish,
Yeah, but don't
which
we?
is capitalism.
I mean, don't we? I mean, they hide things from us, but then we've done the same thing. Is that in defense of what they've done?
What
Or-
are we hiding?
Oh, we don't tell them everything. Well, of course, we talk more than we should, too, sometimes.
What are we not telling them?
Well, I don't know. That's what they say. I mean, I don't know what they don't know. Does that make sense?
4 veterans from distant Soviet Asia, wearing their war medals, visit Moscow. Say a few words for us in your native language, I asked them.
Ну, вы же нас сейчас фотографируете,
We are
да?
not sure we can do that.
А потом
We are
наш
being
язык
photographed.
там будете
Your people will
говорить.
learn our language and will be able to speak it.
Не, вы
Are you
серьезно
serious?
говорите или
What's wrong
нет?
with that? Say something in Uzbek.
Ну скажите мне, я хотел послать узбекский, но скажите мне. 3 слова, скажите мне. Спросите меня узбекский немножко.
Ага, сіз кімсіз? Вы кто такой?
Who are you?
Mariana.
He finally says in Uzbek.
А вы скажите, сіз кімсіз?
Siz kimsiz?
Мен Davronov.
Ben Davronov.
Вот. Я Davronov.
Siz kimsiz? Как
Вы
вас-
кто такой?
Как фамилия? Что ему сказать?
What is your message to our American president? I ask him.
Мы от имени всех
Tell him,
советских
in the name
народов,
of the entire Soviet people, we don't like him
его политики.
or his politics.
Пусть будет мир. Чтобы мы
Let's live in peace and
жили с
friendship with the
американцами
Americans,
дружно, мирно.
without arguing and fighting.
Не дрались, не воевались. Жизнь не пропадала.
Life is too precious.
Чтобы он паники не создавал.
So he won't spread panic through the world
Чтобы свои
or send up
ракеты
his
народа
rockets
не
to scare
пускал,
us.
не страшал народ.
This is Don, a forklift operator from Seattle. He wants to talk to Russians and asks a student from our tour for help. They start with the word hello.
Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте. Уйта.
Страс. Roll your R's more. Страс. Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте. Boy.
Здравствуйте.
High noon on Red Square. To the collection of countless official permissions which Valentin claims were necessary to film is added yet another. Yes, you can film on Red Square, but no picture of government limos. The police may get nervous about it, he says. They are also nervous about the distribution of the magazine America, which has an official circulation permit, but which only American tourists dare to distribute. Anyone who hands out literature here is under suspicion. Recently, 12 young Russians came here to pass out peace literature, purchased in the Soviet bookstores. They were immediately arrested. Don and I have a plan. Tonight, after intermission, while Valentin thinks we are still watching the circus, we will take a taxi and go to find one of the peace activists who was arrested, Olga.
It was our own initiative
That's why we were punished. We suggested many proposals about open TV programs between USSR and USSR, joint projects between meeting between ordinary people, not officials.
Are you breaking the law by talking to Don and us? Is it a law that requires that you report your contact with foreigners?
No, but it's a country which lives not by written law, but by unwritten behavior. And I break this unwritten behavior.
Rule.
Yeah, very often, because by law, by our constitution, it's our duty to struggle for peace.
What language are you going to talk?
Well, I got to speak American.
In our hotel restaurant.
Определенный вопрос. Он бы хотел обменить калькулятор.
We have a question to ask. Don would like to exchange his calculator for that.
Покажите нам, потому что мне очень нравится. Вот. Да, он хочет эти счеты.
Мы ему так подарим.
Можете
Oh, the abacus,
She
she
will
says.
give you this, but she cannot accept that.
Why?
On camera, at least.
Oh! 5, you got 1, 10, there's 10, 20, 10, 20.
How do you know this stuff?
Well, you got 20, 40, you got 20, 40, 50, 1. You push them back 5, see?
All right, so you have minus, and now plus.
Well, plus.
Okay, now it's one what is
plus 3. What I was going by is what people told me before I left.
What did they?
You know, every time somebody, you're going to Siberia, you ain't going to come back. They're going to keep you. You know, those people over there are hostile toward Americans.
Right.
You know,
you go underwater, like
The group goes on to Siberia. You can go with them, but no filming on the Trans-Siberian train, warns Valentin. Thanks, but no thanks, I say. We'll stay in Moscow. And so then will Valentin. Under the cover of night, I visit Rika and her family. 5 years ago, they applied for immigration to Israel. After being refused, they became second-class Soviet citizens who call themselves atkaznik, refuseniks, in a free English translation. Rika's husband Boris, a professor of physics when they applied for immigration, was demoted to lab technician by his institute. That's better than janitor, he says. Their son David has had bitter experiences in school. He was beaten up by another boy who said, "Too bad we don't live in the time of the Nazis. I would know better what to do with a Jew like you." The word slave is perhaps a bit too strong, but I never felt protected by the law of this country, says Boris. Ironically, the first time I experienced the sense of personal freedom was when we decided to leave. I feel freer since then. At school, any small argument turns to hatred when they discover I am a Jew, says David. They are taught every day at school that the symbol of evil for the world is the state of Israel, that Jews cut throats, throw bombs, and prepare war against us. If such lessons are drilled into your young head every day, you start to believe them. For 5 years, we've been living in limbo. As adults, we have found ways to adapt. But for our son, it's tragic. He has been uprooted from his seedbed and not planted into a new one. We don't know how to help him. I want to find a home for us. We know that this land is not ours. I want to breathe freely. I want to break out of this cage. Israel is my magnet. It pulls me there. Although I have never been to Israel, in my dreams, I walk the street of a little town there and find a house where I once lived. I'm sure I will find it when I get there. I am summoned to the headquarters of Soviet television. We know about your night escapades, says Valentin's boss. From now on, a Soviet crew will be with you to film whatever you do. What's this all about? I ask Valentin. From his vague answers, it could be any of three things. Either they need film footage about Western reporters, or they plan to discredit our film as anti-Soviet, or perhaps they are just intimidating us and there is no film in their camera. The soundman tries to break the ice. So tell me, how do your tourists like Moscow? They say they love it, I say. How they can love it? They've only been here for a few days. Well, that's what they say, I insist. Glad to hear it. Fortunately, everything important to us has been shot already. But now, as the star of their show, I try to make their job meaningful. I start by asking Valentin for a coin to call the American embassy. I don't get through. The question of whether there really is film in their camera arises when Gennady, the cameraman, uses an innovative technique of shooting while smoking a cigarette. When I notice people selling sausages on the street, I know we are headed for trouble. Anything which makes Russia the superpower look like a third world country is a no-no by Soviet public relations standards. But as we are under Valentin's protected wings, we venture forward. Why are you photographing us? The saleswoman asked. It's for American television. It isn't black market, is it? I asked. Aren't you authorized by the state? I don't see any problem, says another woman. Ladies, check your hairdo and smile for the camera, which is operated by Gennady, who at that time is eating ice cream. You keep filming and we stop selling, threatens another sales lady. No, we want sausages, protests the crowd. What are you worried about? If it's a state-run business, I try to appease them. Don't you think in your country there are things that don't work, enters another lady. Sure, but we also sell things on the street like you do, I answer. But it doesn't look hygienic, she argues, and I don't see why you want to publicize it. A policeman arrives. Who are you? He asks. American television, I answer, but he's doubtful. A drunk approaches at the same time, insisting that we show our credentials. Valentin is our credential, I say, as the drunk attacks the Soviet television soundman, who is showing him his red press card.
Не надо показывать. Товарищи, разойдись, пожалуйста. Почему он болтает Соединенные Штаты?
Кто болтает? Никто не болтает.
Почему он болтает Соединенные Штаты?
The confusion mounts.
Я не Соединенных Штатов.
Покажи документы.
He is pretending to be an American, the drunk declares, pointing at the sound. He's an ordinary Soviet citizen. That's true, but he's helping us, I say, as I show my Illinois driver's license. As Valentin explains to the policeman that everything is official, the drunk continues. What? Soviet citizens helping Americans making their stupid imperialist propaganda? The man with the dark glasses approaches me and apologizes. Don't pay attention to him. This country has a drinking problem. 5 more minutes and both you and I will wind up in jail, concludes Valentin, steering us away. You envy our happy lives, says a woman over her shoulder. That's why you enjoy looking at our dark side. My last hours in Moscow. Boris, the physics professor, demoted to lab assistant for his wish to leave Mother Russia, says goodbye. Boris returns to his internal exile. His story is in my hotel room, in a few cans of film. It's the story of those in Russia who can neither love it nor live it. Valentin and his crew escort us to the airport, which is another place off limits for filming, but not for them. Valentin knows that upon our arrival at customs, 5 KGB agents will screen our luggage, and his cameraman will film them holding our suspicious film cans in their hands. During this stage event, Valentin will pretend to be as surprised as we are. I will refuse to answer questions about the content of the film cans, reminding the agents that their government agreed in Helsinki to a free exchange of news. When the agents finally release our film footage, Valentin will turn his camera on me and ask me if I was treated well by the Soviet customs. Yes, very well, I will answer, anxious to get away. So good luck with your film, and don't make it anti-Soviet, Valentin will say. I want you to be able to come back to the Soviet Union to do another film. I also wouldn't mind going to America to film Soviet tourists visiting your country, he will add. Of course, I will answer, busy checking that nothing has disappeared from my briefcase.